When 11th hour games tell you sweeping defensive changes, they mean sweeping defensive changes. Hello everyone, and welcome to Action RPG. I'm your host Aaron, and for today's video we are headed back to the world of Last Epoch, my current favorite ARPG. Now during the 7.10 patch preview, they gave us a little tidbit on sweeping defensive changes coming to the game, and they did not disappoint. Today we are going to break down what these changes are, and I'm going to do everything in my power to not read too much and to not make it boring. Just to be clear, there's a lot to read and it is very boring. As always, I will share my thoughts. Please feel free to share yours in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to support smaller channels. All right, let's jump right into this. Starting off with the overview of changes, and again, I will break these down further. Protections are being replaced by percentage-based resistances. Armor is now separate from the resistance system and reduces damage taken from all hits. Very important. Glancing Blow is no longer a primary defensive stat. It still exists, but has been removed from most items and abilities. Penetration, Shred, and defensive bonuses from attributes have all been reworked. Most gear with affected stats have been altered to fit the new system. Check yourself before you venture out, okay? So those are the overview of changes that are coming to 7.10. Let's start off with resistances, and the best way to explain this change is by looking at a current item. So switching over to my Discord, this is an item that someone posted that they found a couple weeks ago, and this will help me to illustrate the change, okay? So currently in the game, this staff, this two-handed staff, gives plus 96 to poison protection. It's just a plus and then a large number to protection. If 7.10 dropped today, this would no longer say 96 plus 96 to poison protection. It would say 9.6% to poison resistance. So protection switches to resistance, and then that plus 96 switches to 9.6%. Again, no more numbers, everything is switching over to a percentage based. And no more protections, everything is resistance. Now, the cap on resistance is 75%. So let's just say you found a tier 7 affix max that gives you plus 750 to poison protection. That would now translate into capping out your poison resistance at 75%. So that's going to be what you're looking at, 75% to get all your resistances capped out. So where does this leave armor? Armor now takes the place of Glancing Blow as the main stat for damage mitigation. Now, Glancing Blow is still in the game, it's just no longer possible to get it to 100%. Now we have to do a little reading. Armor is now 25% more effective at mitigating damage dealt to your health below a flat health threshold. The idea is that armor will be even more effective when you're at lower health, and it'll stop you from getting one shot. And they have given us an example of this, okay? I'm going to read this as slow as humanly possible, so I hope you understand. For example, at level 90, if you had enough armor to mitigate 40% damage by default, okay? You've got enough armor to mitigate 40%. It would mitigate 50% of that damage dealt to your health below 300 health. The reason why it'll mitigate 50% and not 40%, because again, armor gives you 25% more effective damage mitigation when you are low on health, okay? So this is the example. If you had 360 current health and took a 500 damage hit, which would normally kill you, after that other mitigation is applied, this would be reduced by 40% to the 300 damage. The first 60 damage is above the 300 health threshold, so that is applied without any extra mitigation. The next 240 damage is below the threshold, So the 40 mitigation is changed to 50 mitigation, reducing it to 200 damage. So you take 260 damage in total, leaving you at 100 health. I know, it's a lot, and you'll probably really understand it once you play the game. But ultimately, every character is now going to need armor, and if you can get Glancing Blow on something, I think you should still take that, because the mechanic of the stat has not changed. It'll still half damage when you take a Glancing Blow, but I haven't played yet, so we'll have to see just how rare that is, and if you can craft it onto gear. So, armor, you're going to need it on every character, even your mage class. Moving over to penetration and shred. Now, I do have to say that I think penetration is going to make a big difference in the world of damage, okay? And it's really easy to understand. If you have 20% fire penetration and the enemy has 50% fire resistance, it's just your number minus their number. So they're now going to have 30% fire resistance. But what's interesting about penetration is you can also take it negative. So if they have 0 fire resistance and you have 20% fire penetration, they will be at -20. And most of the time when you're building your character, you're not using multiple elements. You're using ice, you're using lightning, you're using fire. So as you're building that, you know, spell percent of damage and fire percent of damage, having fire penetration is only going to add to lowering your enemy's resistances, which in a way will add a ton more damage. Now, shred is very different than penetration. This is actual stackable ailment you can put on your enemies, and you could stack it up to 20 times. Protection shred ailments such as fire protection shred have been changed to resistance shred ailments such as fire resistance shred. So the name is changed. These ailments reduce resistance by 5% against most enemies, 2% against bosses and players, and can stack up to 20 times. So if you are fighting a boss and somehow you actually got all 20 stacks on them, you would have 40%. If you were fighting against a regular enemy and you got 20 stacks at the 5%, you would have 100% shred. Now, what's interesting on here is that it also says that magic and rare enemies can have a suffix that causes them to apply resistance shred on hit to you. So, and it was like that before, but ultimately shred can be cast on you and you can use it against enemies, but it's an ailment that could stack 20 times. Couple more changes and we are out of here. They're increasing health per level to 8 from 6 to reduce reliance on flat health affixes. Thank you. Again, Glancing Blow is going to be a lot rarer and is not considered a core defense, and you can no longer cap it at 100. Now, this one is really interesting. So what can you get Glancing Blow to? Is it 80%? Is it 50%? Is it 30%? Because that makes a big difference. Since Glancing Blow is still in the game, and they have not changed its mechanic, the way it works where it'll half damage, if you can still get it in the 70s, 80s, I would still consider that a core defense. So I am really curious what that cap is for now Glancing Blow. We're just going to have to wait and see, because no one will tell me. Existing set affixes have been replaced with a combined set resistance affix. That's no surprise since everything is switching over. And then they're finally switching over Vitality. Now, in any game I have ever played, probably in the history of games, Vitality is always a life skill. It is always a point that gives you more health. And last Epoch, the people at 11th Hour Games are following suit. Vitality now grants 10 health and 2% increased health regen. This switches from 15 Void, Necrotic, and Poison protection. So if you had 50 points into Vitality, that would give you 500 life and 50% increased health regen. Secondly, you can use Vitality on any character now. And lastly, Attunement will now grant you 2 mana, which normally gave you 4 elemental protection. For the mage class or any mana heavy class, you can go for points of Attunement. And then we already kind of talked about it. This ends with existing items. Most items in the game will be switched, so just make sure you check it out before you venture out. All right, everybody, that's the video. I apologize again. I know this is definitely not the most exciting video, but if you are playing Last Epoch, if you plan on logging in to play 7.10 when it drops, this information is crucial. every build guide ever made will likely need to be changed, especially around the guide for gear after this update. It really is sweeping changes. If you have not joined the official Action RPG Discord, please do so. We now have 340 members, great conversations every day, especially around last Epoch. The idea is to create a gaming community that could jump from game to game together so you never start the server alone. Link for that Discord is in the description. Thank you all for watching, and don't forget that we could get 7.10 anytime. Stay home, stay safe. Do not forget to join the official Action RPG Discord. Aaron, out.